This is gonna be a long. This is gonna be a long YouTube video of mine. Because this video is really long. This video is 32 minutes, but it says how to enjoy games again. You know, I really want to know. I gotta know how to enjoy games again. Because me personally, I only play like. I think I've always been this way. Outside of when I was younger and I had more time. Once I got older, the more I realized that I was getting older, the more I realized I don't have a lot of time for multiple video games. So I sink time into a lot of games that are big time sinks, right? I play a lot of RuneScape. Well, not a lot, but I play a decent amount of RuneScape. I really like roguelikes because there's so much to do in them. Specifically right now, I'm really digging Lost Castle 2. Almost ended up on Rotwood. I'm playing Lost Castle 2. Rumble Club, probably my favorite battle royale right now. And I don't see myself stopping playing it anytime soon. And then, of course, because I've already bought the battle pass and I'm already committed, because FOMO, Fortnite, right? And I don't play a lot of other video games, right? But I've been looking at a lot of indie games, a lot of smaller indie games, a lot of 3D platformers that remind me of things of yesteryear, and 2D platformers, maybe even like 3D action adventure games that are smaller, like Kena, like, what's the name of that other game? I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Tunic. Tunic is 2D. It's 2D isometric. But games like that, smaller games, they look very interesting and appealing to me, and they look like stuff that I'd want to play for longer periods of time than most modern games that I see. Which is, I think, how I'm finding myself figuring out how to enjoy video games again. But this video by a pretty big creator named Exiled with like 30,000 subscribers. I watched one of his videos before, I think. I think he might raise some good points in here because the video seemed to have done really well 2 days ago. We're not too far off the bandwagon. Let's give it a watch.
I hit a point where I was watching more videos about games than actually playing them myself.
Hey, I do that.
Whether that was checking in to see where my old favourite title was now, or just seeing people talk about some of my all-time favourite games.
Retrospectives, yeah.
If I did decide to jump on a game, I would struggle to even get past the Xbox or PlayStation home screen. I would just sit.
That doesn't happen to me that often, but I think the other day, you guys probably saw that if you watched my stream, I got off of talk segments and said, dude, I have like an hour left. Nice. What are we going to do for this last hour? I finished my talk segments, the part of the stream that has to happen, time to game. And I said, man, I don't know what to play. And then said, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit of Halo Infinite. Let's play some. But it took me like 5 minutes. There's so many games that exist. Why is it taking me 5 minutes to find a game that I enjoy? That's a little strange.
Sit there and stare at my Steam library, knowing I want to play a game, but nothing is calling to me. In some moments, I would have that little bit of motivation to jump on any particular game, such as Destiny, but I would find myself getting bored at the idea of just playing the game, so I would just close it once I was on the character menu, thinking about how I could have spent hours upon hours playing a game and now struggling to even get past the loading screens. All of this stems from this idea of feeling as if games just don't hit the same now as they used to. When we load into a new survival world, we walk around aimlessly.
They don't hit the same. They're being built differently, literally. So most video games just don't have that same amount of impact that they did when we were younger. And it's not because we're older and we have less time. Not completely. That is partially because of it. That is partially why, but it's also because the games are built now to make sure they can either be monetized for a long time, or they're built in a way where they will be more appealing to a broad / modern audience, which means that generally you're going to see less things that are obtuse and hard to understand that you have to figure out yourself, which is one of the like big problem solving things that people used to have to do in video games.
Never making it past the first hour of gameplay, but when we were younger, we could play all night.
I played Lego Fortnite for like 6 hours once, actually.
Ones that we want to love as much
it was really fun.
But the enjoyment for them just isn't there, and new games just aren't hitting the same. So I wanted to explore this topic, discussing with you how we can actually start enjoying games again.
Alright, let's see what he's got to say.
One game that is the epitome of this issue and stands out clear as day to me is Destiny. The amount of times that I've loaded up this game to only close it at the character menu is beyond my own comprehension. I also know that it's not just me who has this issue, as I've spoken to friends describing the exact same thing and seen countless videos of people talking about the same subject. It's a really bittersweet moment. You have a little bit of light casting a massive shadow, making you think that you've become hyped for it, but the moment you get 2 minutes into waiting for the game to load and remember what you're in store for, you start experiencing that light getting snuffed out. For me, with a title like Destiny, this feeling comes from a place of feeling as if we were played over and over by Bungie, the gameplay was rarely changed, and when it was such small changes and additions that really weren't that worthwhile.
So it feels as if you're going to work instead of playing video game. Like you're working for your entertainment instead of entertaining yourself. That's how you're saying Destiny feels, which is fair because I could see a lot of MMOs and grindy games, especially if not kept up well, they could feel that way to people.
Over time, it was something that I stopped buying into, and with that, I eventually stopped playing. It took me about 2 to 3 years to finally say enough is enough with that game, and the last 3 years of DLCs are ones that I've not even bothered to look into. This isn't a singular experience either. When I've tried to go back and play Black Ops 2 again, it just doesn't hit the same. And if anything, it just feels as if I'm purely playing it in the hopes
out of nostalgia, trying to reconnect with that old time. Yeah.
Feel nothing more than as if I'm trying too hard to enjoy something like I was 11 once again.
I don't know, man. If I reboot up Left 4 Dead 2 even by myself, that game is still good. It depends on the game, truly. And especially the kind of gamer that you are. Because Left 4 Dead 2, some of those old school co-op and old school single player shooting games are still magical. You go back and play the original Resident Evil 4, still amazing. You go back and play some of the old Mario games, Legend of Zelda games, even the original Halos and God of Wars, like 1 through 3 for both. Maybe 1 and 2 for Gears, but 1 through 3 for Halo. And they still hold up as amazing experiences that are really fun to replay through.
Not only that, though. When I go and play a game like Minecraft, I'll create a world, have high hopes for what I want to do, but I have zero clue exactly where I want to start and what I want to be doing mid to late game. I'll start working on something and then get bored. Within maybe a maximum of 3 weeks,
delete the world,
decide to close down the world.
Yeah.
However, most of the time, I struggle to even make it past the point of my first base. I'll spend all my time mining, and then get to the surface, richer than ever, but with nothing to do. And the last game that truly had this impact on me was GTA 5.
Yeah, GTA RP probably, right? Figured.
I found myself
you need people for that.
Pure exhaustion. I was playing a game to such an extent that it was becoming boring because I was so accustomed to it. So much of the game relies on other players and the interactions from them to make it enjoyable that a lot of the time you're just waiting around, waiting for the true elements of the gameplay to come through. And it would take so much out of me by the end of my experience with it that I had to step away and stop playing these types of games in particular. Not only was I struggling to get into certain titles and certain game franchises, I'd find myself watching YouTube very regularly, but only watching content about games and then never playing them myself.
That Concord? Yeah, don't play that.
2020 through to 2021, I found myself rarely playing many games, and mainly watching a load of content about them. The reason for this was just time availability. Time is such a big deal when it comes to everything we do in life, and if I have the option to just watch a 1 hour long video talking about a game that is 50 hours plus of gameplay, then honestly, I'll probably end up doing it, as it saves me a lot of time and it makes it a less daunting task.
Not if the game's fun. I think if the game's fun, you should make the time to play it. We make the time for everything else that we want to do. We make the time for our hobbies. We make the time for our jobs. We make the time for our real life responsibilities. Make the time for things that make you happy. And if video games are making you happy, or you think a video game that's 50 plus hours will make you happy, tackle it 2 hours at a time. Tackle it an hour at a time. That's fine. That's okay. That's kind of how I felt about Remnant. I thought Remnant was going to be a daunting task and I would never finish it. With the help of my friend Creeper, we finished it, right? And I think we've even ran through most of the worlds twice and finished the DLCs so far. And the game was an amazing experience and super duper fun, and I'm glad that I played through it. It felt worth it. And it was the first thing that really led me to really finding out that I like things other than fighting games. Because it had been a long time since I found out I liked things other than fighting games.
You know, playing that 50-hour title. It's happened to me with many games, which means that I have a lot of knowledge about many games and even full franchises that
he's never played.
In actually playing for myself, and to be honest, I probably won't even end up playing. For us to understand this though, I want to talk about why exactly this is happening. So let's talk about the 3 main reasons that have affected me personally in many periods of my life, and hopefully they can resonate with you in some way and get an understanding in your own mind as to why this feeling occurs.
Was that the thesis? I think that's the thesis.
That is the most outspoken in gaming is just that games just aren't hitting the same anymore. They're not being made in the same way.
Bullet point number 1.
What they used to be. This is the easy scapegoat many of us will use when talking about how we don't enjoy gaming anymore. Whether that's how new games don't optimize their titles for the regular player, meaning tryhard's opinions are valued above all else, or...
That's actually not true. Anyone who thinks tryhard's opinions are taken above all else are fucking insane. They want to try their very best almost always to make sure that the competitive players aren't the only ones enjoying the game. You are absolutely, wholeheartedly being disingenuous if you believe this. Or you're ignorant. And that's probably okay too. But they don't base the game around the 1%. They base the game around the 99%. And they always will, and they kind of have to, or these games will fall flat on their fucking face.
How games are just simply not in a good spot when it comes to releases. This reason is one that I wanted to get out of the way.
I thought people loved Hogwarts Legacy.
It's an easy scapegoat, which
I thought people loved this
easy
game
to target, but it doesn't really help us get anywhere. Are we correct in our belief that gaming is worse in terms of how it's being made today? Yes, maybe. In some areas we are.
In some areas, yes.
Issue of why we're not enjoying games again. Is it solving the problem? Probably not. It's not solving the problem for us, so we have to dive a little deeper into understanding some reasoning. I'm saying this as well because I do dislike things like the corporate greed side of gaming, scummy microtransactions, the
all that is part of why games are being made different.
Communities built around many releases. However, knowing all of this is great and all, but it doesn't actually help us in any way to solve the problem that we're wanting to solve. Or at least it doesn't on a surface level. An idea from self-improvement that I've loved for a very long time is that we might not know what we want to do or who we want to be, but we have that anti-hero in our head, the version that we don't want to really become, and the version that we can avoid at all costs, ideally. It's those tropes that you don't want to take in from your parents, or those things that you see in other people that you don't want to take in as your own ways of being.
Yeah,
That you can
that's respectable.
Create this idea in your head of the stereotypical worst side of gaming, and what you can avoid instead. When understanding why we feel this way,
is that Sea of Stars?
Accept that things are the way that they are right now, and there's only a small amount of stuff that we can do as of right now to even change this or impact the way that the market is going. And to go back to that scapegoat point, the reason I want to say that this is a scapegoat is that a lot of the time, we can use this to mask over the true reason we aren't enjoying
games. Yeah, we can be like, oh, games are made too bad, too poorly.
Because if it was as simple as all of these new games were bad, then why are people enjoying many of the titles that release? Why aren't we just going back to old titles? And
not even just that. Whenever people say gaming is so bad, I did this once and it made me realize that I was old and jaded and that something was wrong. I said, man, gaming just sucks for me right now. And I think I put out a whole YouTube video of me skipping over the Sony State of Play. And there was just not a lot of games that I thought were interesting. And then I started looking into indie games, and I was like, wow, there's so many fucking awesome games I want to play that are coming out or already came out. So I have this vast back catalog of games that I can pick up and buy and play by myself or play through co-op with Marianne or that are on the horizon coming out soon. I saw this really cool looking UE5 action adventure game called like Kenna, and the trailer for it was amazing, and it basically looks like a Pixar Souls-like, right? Or maybe like a Pixar Wukong, whatever you want to call it. And it looks great. It looks amazing, and I want to play through it, right? Lies of P, another good example, one of those smaller kind of indie but still AAA feeling games. Hi-Fi Rush, right? Hi-Fi Rush, another amazing experience. Cyberpunk Bomb Rush, another game that people have like rave reviews about and really, really love. If you look in the wrong place, gaming's gonna suck. If you look in the right place, gaming's gonna be great.
And loving
using the all AAA games suck as a scapegoat for why you hate gaming is bad.
Tastes, and that's why they can't have an opinion on this topic, which I've spoken about elitism in gaming in prior videos, and that's kind of where I feel like a lot of people end up falling into this line of thinking, because the moment you kind of throw a counterpoint in there, they kind of just throw this idea of that you just have a bad taste in games. Which brings me to why I've been calling this a scapegoat, and one of the most impactful reasons for why we stop enjoying many things in our lives. Whether it's a other hobby that we enjoy, we might love reading a book, and then out of nowhere, we just don't enjoy reading it right now. We just don't enjoy reading as a whole. We might love doing rock climbing, or gaming, for example. And you know,
I did a whole lot of card games for so long, and you guys hear me talk about card games, and I still occasionally look into card games, like look into them, but I don't play them nearly as frequently, especially in an offline environment, like at a local or regional or national level. I don't do it anymore. Not even casually with friends do I really play card games anymore. And it was something that I did for a long time, and I still have a love for card games, but I don't have that drive to continue doing it. That doesn't mean card games are bad or different to the point now where they're completely unplayable. It depends on which card game you're referring to and who you ask, but that's generally not the point.
You know what? We end up feeling as if we no longer enjoy it. And the main reason for this is our mental health. This is something that you rarely hear spoken about
Yep.
in the gaming community,
Mental health.
as realistically, who wants to talk about it? We
It
just want
matters.
to play a game and then be happy with it. And because it's such a subjective thing that it can be very easy to just kind of go, nope, I have no issues, therefore this isn't the answer. It's also a subject that's very in and out of the gaming culture. The reason I believe that this is one of the bigger issues around this topic is that it's really easy to just say gaming isn't fun anymore, but actually asking why is really important. There's a concept called the 5 whys. As you might be able to tell, it means that you need to ask 5 whys. So if you believe something like gaming isn't enjoyable anymore, then ask yourself why? Well, it's because companies just make bad games nowadays. Because gaming is nothing more than woke now. Because capitalism sucks.
3.
Or maybe it's because my mental health just isn't in the right space right now, and therefore I'm just saying that the whole community and the whole area of gaming sucks right now, instead of cracking down on the real reason why it's happening.
That's only 4. I thought there was 5 whys.
Than the actual culture within the gaming landscape. Now, yes, that one sounds really specific.
That was also only 4, I think.
Into what I'm trying to say to you. You might genuinely think that gaming sucks now, but you still find enjoyment from some releases that come out from time to time, which is fine. However, for those who are just struggling to enjoy gaming as a whole, I wouldn't be surprised if this has more to do with your life outside of gaming than it does an actual, idea of gaming as a whole. I think that it has more to do with the outside world, and because that thing that we used to use as a comfort blanket just isn't cutting it anymore, it's easier just to say that gaming as a whole just isn't where it should be than it is to actually, dive deep into the reason behind it.
I get to pause there. I'm so happy. So my problems as a kid are very different from my problems as an adult, right? I didn't have to worry about money as a kid. I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about responsibilities, really, like very many of them as a kid. So if I ever had a bad day at school and I was like, I want to just escape from reality, it's very easy to boot up a video game. It's harder to do that when the looming threat of a foreclosure of a house. Not me. Don't worry. My house isn't being foreclosed. I don't own a house. The repossession of a car. Once again, don't worry. My car's not being repossessed. I am 1 payment behind, but I think I'll be okay. A light being shut off. Internet possibly 2 weeks late with a giant late fee, right? Things like that. Those aren't the same problems. So expecting the same medium to solve to be the same comfort blanket that it's been for years to you, if your problems are deeper, whether they be financial problems, physical or mental health problems, or some combination of all of them, that's not really fair on the video games now, is it?
The last part is linked to 2 concepts I briefly mentioned over the last couple of minutes. One has to do with what comes with age, which is responsibilities, and the other is productivity. Getting older has obviously brought around plenty more responsibilities, or at least it has for me right now. I wouldn't be surprised once I've hit 40, I'm still going to have a load of responsibilities, but ideally, a lot of my life will kind of be in check enough that I can just enjoy things as I see fit and, find time to enjoy games enough. Right now, though, it is just hard to find time for games and actually enjoy them in a way that isn't just making me think constantly about
I could be doing something more productive. Yeah.
I need to be taking on. I mentioned earlier about how I used to love watching content way more about games than actually playing them myself, which comes from this issue. When you don't have enough time to really sit down and enjoy a game, you're going to be subjected to 2 options in front of you, either watching content about games or playing games that, are time sinks, but way smaller entities of it. For the likes of COD, you may decide
Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Rumble Club, any battle royale, really, any quick-paced card game, any MOBA, right? Like you're using video games as a hobby, but at the same time also as like a time sink and a time waster. So you're trying to enjoy a medium of video games that maybe you don't even really like that much, and you'd rather be playing a different kind of video games, but you don't have the time for it, or so you think.
That you only have half an hour to play, so you're going to jump on and play 3 to 6 matches of Call of Duty. Or you can spend that half an hour watching a video essay like this about how, you just aren't enjoying games anymore. And the second one, being productivity, is a little bit of a hindrance when it comes to our enjoyment of playing plenty of games out there. I'm someone with an incredibly perfectionistic way of viewing my life, which has made me incredibly aware of the way that my brain is wired, so I end up questioning everything that my brain is doing just to make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons. But when I'm playing a game, my mind always knows that I could be doing something else, but really, most of us wouldn't be doing anything else
anyway.
Time, which
you'd be sitting down on the couch watching TV.
The meta productivity hack is realizing that you need downtime to truly be productive. So the next time that your brain may think
That's why work weeks are 40 hours. That was probably the most they could get away with, while knowing that their laborers will still be productive. Right? Like some places it's more than 40, it's 45, it's 50, it's 60. But at some point the value of that productivity falls off, not even just because of pay, but because of the quality of the work, because you're doing so much. That's why some jobs are 30-hour work weeks or 35-hour work weeks, because the job is intense enough that they'd rather have people be really high quality at their job than have them work too hard or work too much and ruin the quality of it. You need downtime. He's right, right? And in that downtime is when you try to find times for your enjoyment.
to you, well, we could be doing something else right now, just remember that you do actually need downtime to fully prepare yourself and prepare your mind for the productive task that you need to be doing later on. These are the big whys. Gaming just isn't treated the right way by the companies that we used to love. Our mental health sucks, our lives just aren't where we want them to be. We're focusing on being as productive as possible and having as productive of a mindset as we can, and simply having way more responsibilities in our life. So let's actually talk about dealing with these issues head on in a way that I actually believe is most fitting in terms of solving the issue. So this will be in a particular order, and I'm going to mention at the end some actionable steps that you can take from the video, as I don't want this to be a video that you just kind of forget about, don't watch again. I want you to actually write down some stuff,
Oh no, I'm not doing that.
Okay, I need to do this, or I want to do this to try out and see if this works for me. I'm going to go through some of the things that have worked for me when it comes to enjoying games once again. The first step is one that you're already doing, most likely, or you might want to consider doing if you haven't done it just yet, which is to take a break. Stop playing some games for a few months. Disconnect from this world, do some other bits in your life just for the moment. That doesn't mean you can't check in on some of the areas that you like, watch some of your favorite content creators. However, one of the best things that you can do is just disconnect from this entire area just for a little bit.
Yeah, I think taking a break in any hobby that you feel burnt out on is a good thing. You shouldn't continually play something or do something if it's not making you happy, especially if it could lead to an even worse mental state, right? I know people who are very much the way they're like hard on their sleeve when it comes to their performance in fighting games, and they have to take big mental breaks. They have to just stop for a few days, for a week, because if they don't, then they just put themselves in this position where they're spiraling out of control over the way they feel about the performance in a video game because they're so passionate. Now, would some people say that's pathetic? Like, oh, dude, like this guy's fucking upset and sad because he's not doing as well as he thinks he should be in a video game. That's so lame. Yeah, the same way that professional sports players feel really bad when they don't perform the way that they're expected to and the way they want to. The same way minor league players and non-professional players feel about a hobby or a thing that they want to do, like crocheting, like sewing, like woodworking. And they don't feel as if they're where they need to be for the amount of time invested. Take a break. Take a mental reset. They're very important. They're extremely important.
A lot of people's joy within something does come from the novelty of the thing itself. Many of us grew up playing games, and with that played so many for hours on end that over the course of our lives probably will make us question what we could have been doing with even 10% of that time if we had it available. Not saying that games are bad in themselves, I'm just stating this because obviously as a distraction mechanism, gaming is entirely designed to be that, and because of this, it means that it's very good at its job, and it means that it can distract us for longer than we may want to. When I took my first ever break from playing games, this was back in 2019. It lasted roughly 4 months. During this time, I was really depressed. I was struggling a lot with direction in my life, and I had just left college because the environment itself just sucked that I was being a part of, but also I found myself just enjoying other things in life outside of this.
That's good, having a second hobby or second medium too.
This channel I might talk about on my personal channel, so yeah, a little quick, shout out to that channel, go check it out, it'll be linked down below. During this time, I didn't really feel as if I had the desire to play a game or as if I needed to be playing games. The only reason why I got back into playing in the first place was because I wanted to jump onto a Minecraft world with a few of my friends. Besides that, I didn't really feel this desire to have to be online all the time and be gaming at every waking minute that I had available that wasn't dedicated to work. I went on to have a couple other breaks as well from playing games. one on purpose, and the other coming from this constant feeling of whenever I would load up a game, I just didn't care about playing it. Games like Destiny come to mind, as I've already mentioned.
That's unfortunate.
The final break that I had then brought me back into playing
Destiny's a paid game.
a lot more, but in a way more healthier manner than I was previously. And this was the version of myself in 2021. I hadn't really been playing much for the first half of the year, and at that time I also met my girlfriend, and I also knew that I wanted to be making videos as I had been for, on and off for like 11 years. This led to me playing The Last of Us because I really wanted to jump onto something that was story driven again, and afterwards I then played Skyrim again and Assassin's Creed 2, and those games allowed me to enjoy the experience I knew I loved.
Very immersive. They're great games.
Into the hobby again without the toxic side of it coming out. Toxic games are pretty easy to find in your life. Many can categorize the mass majority of multiplayer games as these sorts of toxic games. For me, that definitely is true. However, generally, the best way of knowing if a game is toxic is based on these 3 criteria. The first is if you get angered or overly frustrated when you play a specific game.
Yep, it doesn't even have to be multiplayer.
Souls, for me,
yeah, it can be single player too. Look at that, Souls.
Issue. The second is similar to when you meet up with that one friend or that person in your life who just drains every ounce of your
energy,
from you, and you're just left wanting to do nothing more than just go home and sleep for a bit because you feel as if you've had everything taken away from you with like an hour of speaking to them. And the same is true when it comes to games. Destiny is the game that always did that for me. I never felt good about myself after playing. I just
that's a cue to turn it off.
And like I was a husk of the person that I was just a few hours prior.
Yeah, that's definitely a cue to turn it off.
The best way of describing those feelings. The last one is quite similar to the second, but differs slightly. Instead of focusing on if a game is emotionally draining, we're going to focus on if you're lying to yourself about actually liking it.
Yeah.
Which means the final criteria is understanding whether or not the game that you are playing is actually one that brings you any form of joy or happiness, or if you're simply just addicted to the feeling that the game gives you sometimes.
Yeah, if you catch yourself not smiling and having fun in a video game, even when losing, it's probably not the game for you, bro. I have a clip, I'd have to look for it, of me dying to people, like 3 people elbow dropped me off a rooftop in Rumbleverse. And it was the most tilting, but also funny experience ever. I was mad, but I was upset, but smiling at the same time. And that's how you know that you're having fun in a video. I would lose, queue up and say, last game. Lose again, queue up, say, last game. Queue up, say, last game. And keep playing. Be a little annoyed, but be very happy with the experience and the time spent playing that game. After finding out how much I enjoyed that game, it was hard for me to go back and play games I didn't enjoy and feel the same way about. If I am playing a video game and I'm not enjoying it, I turn it off now. I can't do it to myself. I can't not be having fun playing a video game. Doesn't matter how much time I've spent, doesn't matter about sunk cost fallacy, about FOMO. If the game doesn't feel fun, I don't continue to turn it on. And I think that's a healthy way to think about all video games, but all mediums of anything. I don't care how long you've been doing woodworking or welding or taxidermy or sewing or crocheting or gardening. If you're not having fun doing it anymore, if it's not keeping a smile on your face and it's making you feel drained or you have negative feelings after or during, stop doing it. It's time to turn it off. It's time to find something else to do with your time because life's too short for you to be upset as you're trying to enjoy your hobby.
These are the games you might find as mostly really mediocre experiences, but like gambling, you can constantly keep pulling that lever until you eventually get a win. Battle Royales are a very good example of this that come to mind, or really any online FPS tactical shooter. Another way of judging this as well is if you think that you're playing a game that you actually enjoy, just ask yourself the question about how often you're smiling when you play the game.
Yep, that's important. I just said that.
It's a game that for years I believed I enjoyed and loved, which probably stems from this place of truth, but the harsh reality of it is that it's more similar to a love for something than an actual enjoyment of something. Something you love is very similar to something you hate. It's just that one bad day can lead you to going towards that thing that you absolutely despise. When I realized that I was just sitting there looking at a screen for 6 hours on end, rarely cracking a smile, let alone laughing with my friends, I realized
you even laughing alone
needed to step away from.
Yep.
This doesn't mean you have to drop every single multiplayer game that you're ever playing.
If you're having fun with it, keep playing it.
Challenging games. What you need to do is figure out whether or not a game is providing value to you or your life, or if you're simply being played by the game, like TikTok or short form content or even YouTube.
Lost Castle is challenging. Lost Castle 2 is challenging. Remnant 2 is challenging. I like those games and I continue to play them regardless of them being difficult. Difficult games have nothing to do with games that don't make you happy. Because if you are a Souls gamer and you're having fun with the experience of trying to figure out the patterns of the boss and beat them, that's okay. But ask yourself, is it worth it and are you smiling? Are you happy?
YouTube videos like this, you'll forget about the next match the next day, but you know what? You feel as if you kind of need to keep playing. The next one is going to be really hard for many of us out there, but is essential for me personally, which is to stop consuming negative gaming content.
Ooh, that one is hard.
Saying it's hard is because it's everywhere. I upload negative videos from time to time, but you'll know what? I actually try to make some form of, valid arguments, and also I try to give a positive spin on what I'm talking about. But you'll know exactly the type of content creator that I'm on about when I explain it. Those content creators are, the people who are mainly posting content that seems a bit too much like pure rage bait most of the time, or they're just trying to keep you up to date about the new thing that you're meant to be
mad about
or enraged about.
Yep.
There are many creators out there, and I'm not prepared to go to war with all of the big ones in the space, but I think it's a crucial thing to do if you want to start enjoying games. Similar to how if you're already annoyed when you jump onto a game, you're probably going to end up more annoyed than you were previously, or at the very least, you're just not going to have a very
That's
good
called tilt,
because you're not in the right state of mind before playing. We need to start disconnecting ourselves from this content, and if you're still wanting to be in the know about something like this and just jump on from time to time to be up to date, just watch a weekly skill up video. He'll round up everything within a half an hour sitting to maybe an hour from time to time.
Yeah, daily uploads of rage videos, of like rage bait,
hour once a week.
like video game videos or anything about your hobby is probably the worst thing ever.
He doesn't talk about how, oh, this specific thing is happening and this specific.
If you watch content creators who only ever talk shit about Magic the Gathering, that is going to at some point sway the way you feel about the game mentally. If that's all you consume about your favorite medium, I just name Magic the Gathering because there's a lot of problems in Magic the Gathering right now, like banning the bird and stuff like that, right? And the amount of product that comes out for Commander while ignoring other sets like, Legacy, Standard, Pauper, Modern. Those things will eventually change the way that you feel about the game, because you're just constantly consuming negative content. Your brain will take that information and run with it. We're sponges. Even as an adult, you're still a sponge, or less of it than as if you're a child. But we're still sponges. We still absorb information and take it in. It's okay to consume some negative gaming or hobby-related content, but it shouldn't be the vast majority of what you watch.
Thing is happening. Tomorrow I'll tell you all about how this company is awful and this it's like, just watch one video a week. It summarizes everything, and it's not absolute rage bait for views like there is within some in the industry. And another similarity that this has to other areas of life, for example, is if you already feel in a sad state of mind, or you're in a neutral, you don't have a particularly like over the top, you're excited, you're happy, and you're not that much of someone who's just down, you don't feel that bad. But then you start listening to music. Now, music plays a massive role in the way that we can feel. If you're consuming nothing more than negative music all the time, your mood will naturally lower because of it.
Correct.
It's something that I'm working on myself when it comes to that, when it comes to music, but it's also the same within gaming. If you're just always consuming,
I listen to a lot of upbeat lo-fi. Big fan.
All that's going to happen is make your day worse, because you're allowing outside influences to take over the way that you feel on a day-to-day basis, because you decided you're going to sit and see someone talk shit about how Activision are awful for like 10 minutes, and then you're going to watch their next video where they
his FPS is pretty low. It's stable, but it's low.
Sometimes those things are granted.
That's my problem. I'm looking at his FPS numbers.
People are just rage baiting you over stuff that fundamentally you don't care about. You don't care about it, and they had to spend about 20 minutes explaining to you about why you should care about it.
Yep. Nice wasted 20 minutes of your life. You could have been used enjoying a video game.
The toxic content creators, I would highly recommend just creating a short list of some games that you're interested in playing and the ones that you would like to play, but you've just never gotten around to it.
That's why I started using my Steam wishlist.
I'm not one to create an Excel sheet that has my entire backlog of games that I need to play, as I personally just find it massively overwhelming, and I think it's an over-the-top way of seeing all the games that you might want to play, as you'll put anything and everything on that list. Create a list, maybe around 10 different games that you've wanted to play for quite a while.
My Steam wish list has like 40 games on it.
Like 90% of all
I could probably lower it down to like 20.
Steam libraries. Or it might be a game that you haven't gotten around to picking up just yet. For me, this would include the likes of Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, Breath of the Wild, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, Manor Lords, and a few more. These are a few games that I'm interested in playing and I haven't before, hence why I've started very recently playing Ghost of Tsushima. By creating a small list, it'll give you a far more achievable look to the games that you actually want to check out, the new releases or old games that you want to actually play for the first time. I believe creating a list of games that you find interesting is the best thing that you can do, as it will make you realise that you haven't actually opened your horizons up enough when it comes to the games that you want to play, and it allows you to realise that the conclusion that you've got, which is games aren't fun anymore, kind of isn't backed by the evidence that you've got right in front
correct.
of you. The evidence in front of you...
Because there wouldn't be a list of games you'd want to play if gaming wasn't fun anymore. Correct.
And I completely get that. But what this does at the very least is make you question why
Hey, that's reused footage.
that games
Why do I know that?
fun anymore.
I mean, it looks like reused footage.
Make you have to dive into those aspects that I mentioned earlier in the video.
Maybe he died before, you used the footage where he died and then has the footage again.
When you're trying to pursue enjoying games again is you need to remove this feeling of needing to
Same with this.
something
I think this is
or
reused
needing to
footage.
jump on. I'm going to contradict myself in a moment, but you'll understand why. The reason I'm saying that you don't need to force yourself to play is because sometimes you just aren't in the right state of mind.
Or in the right mood. You shouldn't play something if you're not in the mood for it.
Or it's the case that you're just making playing a game far more work than actually something you're doing for leisure. The contradiction though does come from when you play those titles that you want to get into, but after a few hours you just seem to fall off and never touch again. And you end up repeating the same cycle where you may end up playing the introduction to a game multiple times. We need to learn how to strike the balance perfectly between not forcing ourselves to just jump on because of an amounting pressure internally of we need to play the game and that we can't stop playing because otherwise we're going to get lost and not end up playing it at all. Because, you know, sometimes, like I said earlier, we have things in the real world that we have to do. But also knowing when we need to give ourselves that little bit of a nudge so that the game that we've just started playing, but we've taken a week off of playing, doesn't get lost in the dust and somewhere forgotten as an experience.
That's called a
and you have to
backlog.
go back to the beginning the next time you decide to jump on.
Hey, that's
One side
okay.
of need is bad. It creates this over-the-top doom feeling, whereas the other one just allows you to continue experiencing the thing you're playing. So many
important thing to do is be...
It's also the same within gaming. If you're just always consuming negativity,
Hey, where are we at?
all that's going to happen forcing ourselves to just jump on because of an amounting pressure
There we go.
internally of...
Yeah, that's how, say you're playing a video game. I was trying to pause it and my side mouse went backwards. Say you're trying to finish a battle pass for a video game and you got 15 levels left and you have 2 days. You're going to feel pressured to play that video game more and to get on that video game even if you don't want to play it, or even if you're not really feeling in the mood to play it, because you want to get your money's worth or your value. Maybe you don't, maybe you're not one of those people, which is good, right? You don't let a video game dictate how you are. But that's kind of what the game is built to make you do. It's make you want to see the number go up and see that battle pass finished. So that's how they get you in a sense where you basically have to take back control of the video game from yourself. Like, you don't want it to be like you're in the Matrix, right? You want to make sure that you're not in the Matrix, that you are in control of what games you choose to play and when you choose to play them and why.
Need to play the game and that we can't stop playing because otherwise we're going to get lost and not end up playing it at all. Because, you know, sometimes, like I said earlier, we have things in the real world that we have to do. But also knowing when we need to give ourselves that little bit of a nudge so that the game that we've just started playing, but we've taken a week off of playing, doesn't get lost in the dust and somewhere forgotten as an experience, and now you have to go back to the beginning the next time you decide to jump on. One side of need is bad. It creates this over-the-top doom feeling, whereas the other one just allows you to continue experiencing the thing you're playing. So many of us have this experience that we start to get into a game, you know what, you actually kind of really like it, and then boom, another big release comes out of nowhere around the corner that you just forgot about, or you knew was there but you just thought, you know what, I'll play this game and I'll continue afterwards, and then you just kind of get wrapped up in that new release
and don't go back and do the other one.
The previous one. Sometimes we do have to force ourselves to enjoy something. It might sound contradictory, but it's something that we all
that's where you
know
finish.
to be true at times, especially considering one of the biggest examples of this is something like working out. If you don't feel the need to go to the gym, one of the best things you can do is simply forcing yourself to go. But
yeah.
also, another way of doing it that doesn't feel as much like you're forcing yourself is just to ask yourself the question of how will you in 5 hours feel? Or how will you tomorrow feel if you don't go to the gym
Today.
or you do go to the gym today? Most likely, you will probably feel great about yourself if you haven't gone and done it. The same goes in many other areas of life. It's why, for as much as I do believe...
Yeah, finishing a video game that you said you wanted to finish, even though you're like, dude, no, I can't finish. I got other stuff going on, or I'm switching to another game, whatever. Finishing, like, say it's a single player game. Finishing a video game is a great feeling. It feels awesome knowing that what you wanted to be, what you wanted to accomplish, you did, regardless of the fact that, like, at first maybe there was something else grabbing your attention a little bit more and pulling you towards that thing. It's nice to know that if you just really put it out there, put yourself further into the story of it, or put yourself further into the platforming or shooting mechanics of the game and finish it, it's good. It's the same thing as finishing a project you're working on for your car. Like, my project car has been sitting here for months and I'm going to work on it, but I also got this other thing I'm doing. Like, finish your project car and get it running again and turn that engine on. And the first time you put that key in and you hear your project car turn on, and it actually turned on right this time, it's going to feel good. Or going to the gym and you don't want to go this week at all and 5 away from your weight goal and you go to the gym and you gain that 5 pounds in muscle and you step on that scale, that feeling is euphoric, and you can't beat that feeling in life. You can't do it.
To a high extent that it's the game's responsibility.
Yes, I said gain weight in muscle because I'm really skinny. So if I ever go to the gym, that's what's going to happen to me.
Forcing myself to play through a specific point of a game if the title is beloved by others, as there's got to be a reason there that people love the games so much. A big example for this, and I've mentioned this in many videos before, was Red Dead 2. I forced myself through the first 10 hours of the game because I was like, so many people love this game. I don't like cowboy stuff. I also just thought the game was really slow to begin with. And guess what? I forced myself through 10 hours of it. I got to know...
10 hours? I don't know if I can force myself through 10 hours of a video game to find out if I like it or not.
It's one of the best gaming experiences that I've ever had.
I don't know if I can do that.
For many other titles out there, sometimes you do need to put pressure on yourself to play the game and just get through a certain point so that you take in and soak up the knowledge. But at other times, you do end up feeling as if you just need to jump on the game because you said to yourself that you would at least put an hour every single day into playing. Instead, allow yourself to just kind of do it in ebbs and flows, and if you notice that you're falling off a game, question to yourself, is this a game that you actually want to play, or do you want to replace it with a game that you're more interested with?
That's what I did with Tekken, right? Like, some would say beating a fighting game is mostly about getting to the highest rank you can, right? And I could see myself being Tekken King, Tekken Emperor, maybe even Tekken God if I really hunkered down and continued to play the game. But it wasn't worth the trials. It wasn't worth the tribulation. The game wasn't fun enough, so I replaced it with other games. And I feel a lot better. I don't think I've played games more recently and been happier doing it than since I stopped playing as many fighting games. That's really sad because I love fighting games. I still love watching them. I still love it, like consuming the medium, but I don't really play them anymore because they're just not fun for me right now.
We don't actually need to force ourselves to jump on a game, and also we don't need to stop ourselves from forcing ourselves to jump on a game because we may feel guilt for not doing something. Sometimes we end up inspired to jump on a game and we end up really enjoying it. This isn't something that I ever really thought about until very recently.
Yeah.
I found myself realizing that there's loads of games that I've played that have come based off of inspiration from other sources.
Correct.
As I've mentioned in a few different occasions now, Ghost of Tsushima is a game that I'm playing for the first time. Not really, as it's technically my third attempt of playing it. The first two were over a year ago.
Damn.
So now, roughly, as I was originally going to look at making a video about the game at that point of time, so I forced myself to play, and I just wasn't enjoying the experience at that point. I would only make it through the first couple of hours before then closing the game and just giving up on the process. However, a few weeks ago I watched Shogun, which made me really immersed into the world of
feudal Japan, yeah.
One thing going through my mind when I made it about halfway through the show was that when I am home, I'm going to play Ghost of Tsushima, which I ended up doing. When I see a cool building or medieval styles of housing around the UK, it always makes me feel as if I want to load up a Minecraft world and see if I can build it for myself. When I watched through Game of Thrones on multiple occasions, which yes, that means that I am admitting to you right now here on the internet that I've watched Game of Thrones multiple times. I'm not going to say
I've never
multiple times
watched
because
it
people
through.
question
I've
me.
seen like
But yeah,
episodes in
let's just say
part,
I've
but never
it on
watched
quite a
it.
few occasions over the last like 6 years. So obviously sometimes that was watching seasons 1 to 5 over and over again until the season 6 came out and whatnot, just because I found the world incredibly immersive. But what it made me do is really want to jump on Skyrim or The Witcher 3. Even Assassin's Creed Valhalla, a game that I talk a lot about, and not in a positive manner by any means, ends up coming to mind as something that I actually want to jump on and want to give a second chance because of something like the Vinland Saga. What this means is that
Yeah, I was gonna say I get a lot of inspiration from games by looking at what my friends play, because I truly do believe my friends have good taste in video games. Most of them that play similar games to me that aren't fighting games, I'm almost certain that the games are going to be really fun, right? Like I've been meaning to pick up Gunfire Reborn, even though it's old, because it's a roguelike. And I found out I liked roguelikes because I got a free game on Epic Games once called Lost Castle. And I played it for 4 hours straight on one day, and it was a blast. And it's actually the worst version of the game because Lost Castle 2's out, and Lost Castle 2 is fucking amazing, and that's all I've been playing recently, right? I saw one person stream Rumble Club or talk about Rumble Club at some point, and then I looked for it myself. I saw someone streaming it. No, I'm sorry. I was looking through the Steam beat 'em up section. I found it. Then I found someone streaming it. Then I realized I wanted to play it and have not gotten off of it. Same basic concept, right? Like I look to things as inspiration for, hey, I think I would like this game because it looks like something else I've played, or it looks like some other medium that I've enjoyed in the past. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I think having familiar ground means that you are more likely to become immersed and invested into a series or a game or a world or a lore or a book that you want to or wanted to maybe pass up before. So that's a good thing.
We don't necessarily always need to force ourselves to play a game. An actual better approach that I've found generally that brings way more joy to playing the games that I actually want to play and way more joy to the gaming hobby as a whole is finding outside resources to help ease me in. We should be aiming to get inspired to play a game. Inspiration will do wonders for wanting to play through something in comparison to pressure or motivation, which is a really weird word to use when talking about playing a game. I mentioned it earlier about playing Destiny. It feels weird to say as I don't really feel like you can be motivated to play a game. I guess you can at times, but it just kind of feels odd. I don't know if it's more just hype or motivation. Who knows if they're basically the same thing or if
Yeah, hype and motivation can be the same thing. Hype can be a motivator.
All I know is that it
Hype
just feels
is
weird to
potentially
say
a motivator.
motivation. I do think though inspiration is genuinely there and can actually help you get into a game way more.
Like a perfect example of people being hyped for something and it inspiring them to play something is people watching the Fallout series on, what was it, Amazon, and then going to play the games again, right? Because they played them before and now they're going back and they're playing Fallout because they're playing Fallout 4. Or people had never played the games before and saw the show and they're like, yo, this seems kind of cool. What are the games about? Let me go play the video games. Same way with something like The Witcher, which is also on screen and there's a TV adaptation, and I've heard it's pretty good.
If you have zero clue which game you're actually interested in jumping on right away, or maybe you do have a clue of some of the ones that you're interested in, instead of jumping on straight away, spend a little bit of that time on that break that I mentioned from gaming. Just go outside, see things, visit some countries, get immersed into other cultures, watch shows that will immerse you into those new time settings or different worlds for you to explore. All of this will add to the idea of becoming inspired to play a game. The final way to really start enjoying a game again that I've hinted at throughout this video but haven't said directly to you is to start having a life. There's one big reason for this, which is that many of us who game only have this hobby as a hobby.
Yeah.
We might have some smaller interests here and there, but they haven't.
We don't do anything other than gaming.
Actually being a hobby. We also don't really have a proper life. We just work, sleep, game, and then maybe
come home.
Take some time for a friend or family member every few weeks. This is why you're not enjoying games anymore.
You're doing it too much. You don't do anything else.
Enjoy life itself, and you're only playing a very specific subset of games. The main thing that I would
I streamed for 7 hours yesterday, all at once, not in multiple chunks. Like I think I'm almost at 7 today. I streamed for 7 hours yesterday on Saturday. This is Sunday, so if this video comes out on a different day, it's Sunday that I'm recording this and watching this YouTube video. I went out to lunch with my wife after, and she needed to go to Walmart for something, and I said, "Hey, we can go right now." And she was like, "Well, why are you in like such a mood to go?" I was like, "I need to go outside. We're eating right now. We're sitting down in the restaurant, but after we eat, after we leave, we can go now and just walk around Walmart. You can find what you're looking for. You can look for other things that maybe you're looking for or think you need, so that we'll have a mental note of them, right? Just to kind of get out of the house, to go do something other than just sit in front of my computer with these fucking glasses on, with these bright ass monitors in front of me, playing video games again." Because that's what's going to happen when I get home and say, "Oh, I don't want to be bored. Let me turn on YouTube on one monitor and turn on a video game on the other." Or let me turn on YouTube on one monitor and scroll social media on the other. That's what's going to happen. Because once I get back to my apartment, I don't do anything, right? This is my hobby. This is what I do at home. I needed to be outside. I needed to have a life. I needed to go somewhere. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Highly recommend that some will find sounds incredibly silly, but does
No, it's true.
said
Oh, you got to do
some
something other than
is,
just game.
which is to go outside. Touch grass is a saying in the gaming world because so many of us are not
Don't
only
do it.
chronically gamers, we're also chronically online, which means that we have
Hey,
to
reuse
spend
footage.
time doing real life things. The less time you spend in the digital world, I guarantee your general life will get better. Obviously, that is a blanket statement. Some games are genuinely the best
Hey, reuse
bits of
footage.
entertainment and storytelling that have ever been made by people. Some creators genuinely make thoughtful content, but this isn't the content I'm talking about.
Is this the first one I noticed again?
People who play
It is.
competitive shooters, watch live streams for hours a day, watch YouTube drama content and rage bait. You need to strip this toxic side of the internet out of your life and replace it with far more positive real life experiences. Besides going outside, you need to build friendships and actually
reuse footage.
time towards your family. Again, you might be someone who doesn't have the best family life, but for those who kind of have a decent family life, or you have some people who you're still connected with, but
Yeah, you should go talk to them,
try
hang
and
out with
actually
them.
spend time with them.
Yeah.
It'll be far more of a worthwhile thing to do while you can.
I hung out with my mom and grandma for like
games every single
like
waking
2
day,
hours
especially
last
in
weekend or
the
weekend
gaming
before
space
last.
where so many
I just
of
did
our
it.
friends
I was like, yeah,
are
why not?
friends. Some are for sure, but others are much more just like gaming buddies. You don't do anything in real life with them, similar to how many don't actually have real proper friends, they just have drinking buddies. For adults, it's increasingly difficult to make friends, let alone make friends with people you actually want to be friends with. So start doing more, get into new hobbies, join some clubs.
My problem is I don't want to really do anything outside of gaming with my friends. It's not that they're not my friends, but we could talk about normal stuff. But I want to play video games with my friends.
Who I genuinely want to talk to and catch up with quite regularly just through that last thing alone. I would also highly recommend getting into some new hobbies, as like I said, for many this is their only one that they've got. So try out some things that you've found interesting in the past, no matter what it is. Try to get rid of that built-in stigma towards doing something and just try it out and see if you like it. Create a list, like the one I mentioned earlier of creating a list for games you're interested in to just some new hobbies that you might be interested in checking out. Reading is a great place to start for many out there if you want to do something that's just from home and doesn't take you too far out of your comfort zone. Getting into something like a sport as well that you might have done when you were younger, or just trying out some form of creative pursuit. Having more hobbies,
Writing, drawing, reading,
as you'll be able to go into it,
bicycling outside, skating.
Instead of going into it because you feel as if
I
you
could
don't have
definitely
much
see
else
myself
to do.
skating
Having
again.
a life is probably the best ROI
Saw
thing you can do to start
A
enjoying
Sonic the
games again,
Hedgehog
in my
skateboard
opinion.
at Walmart, and I was thinking about
My goal
buying
with
it
this
and then
video
just
was to
putting
try and
real
help you
parts
guys
on it
out
because
and
of course
actually get you to
Walmart
enjoy games again. And however, I don't want you
skateboard
just to
parts
forget
suck.
about this video, and the next couple days you just stop caring about it and don't even think about this subject again. Grab a notebook for a second, ideally a physical one. If you need to, use something like Apple Notes or whatever, and here is a few actionable steps that
Ooh, cool.
be worthwhile.
The actionable
to do or
steps.
pursuing, obviously, malleable, try out whatever you want to do, see what works for you and what doesn't. The first is to take 60 days off of playing games if you haven't.
I don't think I could do that.
Get a gym membership and go twice a week.
I'm definitely not going to the gym.
Create
Sorry,
a list
bro.
of 10 games that you're interested in checking
I can do
out.
that.
Create a list of 5 to 10 hobbies you're interested in, and then actually make plans to go and try them out. Check out 2 to 3 new shows or movies that you haven't watched before, which again will hopefully
That's a good idea.
be inspired in some way to play a game in the future.
And if you don't want to do a TV show, do a movie.
Shared activity together, start watching YouTube with more intention and getting rid of all the rage bait content you might be consuming. Lastly, uninstall all of the negative games from your PC and console. Those
a good idea.
things will allow you to start enjoying games.
Reused video.
If some of them don't
reused video
related to gaming in any way, like the gym side of things. I promise.
Go to the gym. You can literally just go outside and walk.
Your life far more. You will become happier with yourself and with life
Go
itself.
outside, go walking, go jogging, buy a fucking bike.
Just get better. So please try out these things.
Reuse footage.
Get back to me on how they go for you and the progress that you've made with
I like this video.
You know what? The games that you want to enjoy.
I think this video is really good.
Let me know down below what's worked for you if I haven't mentioned it in this video. I'd love to know anything extra and what can be done to help others or help me in the future if I go through the exact same things again, where I need to kind of, take a step back and actually dial in my thoughts. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've also got a monthly game club that I host in the Discord, so make sure to come on by if you're interested. This month is Ghost of Tsushima, which works for me as I recently started playing it. As again, I've mentioned, I feel like I keep mentioning this. I'm sorry if I am reiterating myself a bit too often in these videos. Lastly, if you do want to support the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. Check out the Patreon down below. It's as low as, I believe, $1 a month, I believe. I would need to double check that. But yeah, the actual tier that gets you early access to things and just gets you a little bit of extra stuff is the Exiled ones, which is $5 a month, so make sure to check that out if you are interested. Any support is much appreciated, as this channel, it's the case that I would like to, enjoy doing more of it and be able to dedicate a bit more time and resources to making the content better for you. With that all being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.
Video was pretty good. I liked it. I was a big fan. I think giving people tips on why they don't enjoy video games and explain to them why they're wrong about why they think they don't enjoy video games is really cool. Also, having a checklist of things you could do. I don't think all those things are potentially right, but they're close enough, right? I think you should probably have outside friendships outside of gaming. Even if the vast majority of your friends are gamers, you should have friendship aspects with them that have nothing to do with gaming. Like, you should just be able to have a normal conversation with them about something that doesn't have anything to do with video games, or at least doesn't intrinsically start with video games, right? You should be able to message your friend, not, hey, bro, you getting on the Discord call so we can play Helldivers? You should be able to message your friend, yo, how you doing today, man? How's it going? What's going on? How's life? Okay, you and the wife are cool? The kids are doing okay? Oh, they started school? That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm just working a lot right now. But, oh, I'm saving up for a new car, this, that, the other. You should be able to have a normal conversation with your friends. That's the first thing, I think. Going outside, yes. I don't know about a gym specifically, but going outside. Go for a walk, go for a run, go for a jog, get a bike, buy a skateboard, a longboard, some form of exercise. It's really good for your heart. It's really good for your body. It's really good for your mind. Reading books, newspapers or articles. Okay, and I don't mean comic books. I don't mean comic books. I don't mean manga. I mean books, right? I don't read books, but I read a lot of articles. And I read a lot of articles generally about things I like, right? I read articles about video games. I read articles about card games. I read articles about movies and movie reviews. I like to have my brain informed with tons of knowledge that is about things I like, while still keeping my literacy high, my reading comprehension high. That's really good for your brain. Once again, I think a lot of the things he mentioned are just good for your brain and good for your mental health. The last thing I think is finding games that you enjoy and making sure you're playing games that you enjoy. If a game is making you mad, if a game is pissing you off to no end, if a game is not making you feel good, stop playing it. I think that's the biggest trap that most modern gamers fall into, is they keep playing a game over and over and over because they have put so much time or so much resources into it, and it's just not fun. It's not the same anymore that it used to be. Turn the game off. Find something that makes you happy, that makes you smile, that makes your heart feel good when you play it. This was a great video. I think this was really good. I'm gonna drop this guy a subscription. I'm gonna like the video. I think you guys should do that too. This video was awesome. It was really long, but I think it was pretty comprehensive. There was a little bit of rambling points, a lot of reused footage, but that's okay. You're mostly watching it to listen to the guy, not really to watch what's on screen. So that's okay. Maybe he just didn't have enough footage this time. Hopefully, with enough people subscribe to his Patreon or whatever, or donate on his Patreon, he'll be able to record more footage. That'd be cool.